In today's video, we're taking a look at some talk around Wayne Simmonds. Apparently, there is a couple of teams interested in the veteran services, plus Elliotte Friedman thinks there's a possibility John Klingberg could end up in Edmonton by the end of the season. All that, plus we have some injury updates, news on the NHL waiver wire, and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we have a variety of NHL news, some trade talk, and a few other news items from around the league to take a look at here. First up, we got news from the NHL waiver wire. We know there's a couple of players on waivers yesterday. One was for the purpose of contract termination. Those players have indeed cleared as expected, and no claims were made. We do have two more players on waivers today, and again, I don't expect there to be claims. The Philadelphia Flyers have placed Hayden Hodgson on waivers, and the St. Louis Blues have placed Anthony Angelo on waivers. So obviously those are both players that were recovering from injuries during the training camp and preseason phase of the season, and then now they can go through waivers to be demoted. So I would be quite surprised if there is indeed any additional claims, but you just never know sometimes. On to some other news from around the league, including some injuries. We got bad news out of Montreal that defenseman Mike Matheson is going to be out for 8 weeks. He unfortunately missed the first game of the season against the Maple Leafs. We knew he was dealing with some sort of an injury. It didn't sound too serious at the time, but we didn't really have a lot of information on it. Now they're saying he's going to be out for about 8 weeks due to the ab muscle strain. So that's certainly not good news. He was expected to be one of their top two defensemen this season. They have a lot of kids playing back there, including Harris and Arbor Jacki, obviously getting a bit of opportunity. Caden Gooley, and obviously a lot of the veteran guys are dealing with stuff like this. Matheson's out, Edmonton's out, and it doesn't sound like they're going to be back anytime soon. So good opportunity for the kids to keep playing. Hopefully they can handle the responsibilities in the minutes. But like I said, Matheson, who was acquired in that Jeff Petrie trade, who they expected to be a top pair defenseman for them, good character player, is going to be out for the first couple of months of the season. We also saw some injuries last night as well, including Nick Schmaltz leaving the game for the Coyotes. Left early in the first period, only played like 2 minutes and change. Did not return, so we'll keep an eye there. Obviously, he'd be one of their top players. The Coyotes not expected to have a lot of wins this year, and losing Schmaltz would make that even more troublesome to do. And the Carolina Hurricanes today did confirm that forward Ondrej Kase was heading back to Raleigh to be checked out and further evaluated, and they're concerned for a potential concussion. That would be a significant blow for Kase, considering the history that young man has dealt with, and the history of head injuries and concussions he's had. He's missed a significant period of time. He's had some bad concussions in the past and kept him out for extended times. He's, in the last couple of seasons, been a little bit luckier with staying healthy, so that would be just really bad for him. So hopefully it's not a concussion, but when they suspect that it is, generally it quite often is. So let's keep him in our thoughts. Hopefully he can return in the not too distant future. We also got word today that Cody Eakin, who was with the Calgary Flames on a PTO during training camp but did not land himself a contract, has indeed signed over in Europe. I believe it was the Swiss League he ended up going to, so he won't be looking for NHL work. Alex Chason, who was in training camp with the Arizona Coyotes on a PTO, is still working out, stayed skinny in North America. I believe he's skinny with the Tri-City Americans in the Western Hockey League. I'm still waiting to figure out what his next move is to see if he can get an NHL opportunity. It's believed that the Florida Panthers still want to sign Eric Stahl, who was there on a PTO as well. And it's right now, what's holding things up is their salary cap space. So I'm not really sure how they're going to maneuver around that. I don't know if there was some talk to Eric Stahl may kind of head home while he's waiting for them to get things sorted out. But he very well might stick around here with the team a little longer to see how that's going to play out. But a couple of players on PTO, some updates there. Longtime NHL veteran Kevin Bieksa, who we know hasn't played in the past few seasons, but a member of the media, often appears on Hockey Night in Canada with Sportsnet in Canada, is signing a one-day contract and is going to retire a Vancouver Canuck. Even though he has not played in a while, he has never officially announced his retirement. And I've heard him mention on TV before that he would be interested in retiring as a Canuck. I'm not sure whatever prompted him to not make that official, because like I said, everybody's known for some time that he was done playing hockey, but Kevin Bieksa will be making that official, and they'll be going through a ceremony process to him officially retire in Vancouver. And another news note out of Vancouver's organization as well, of course, you probably remember talking about Rachel Doerrie, who's worked a lot in NHL analytics, was hired by the Vancouver Canucks in the offseason and then mysteriously let go only a matter of weeks after it was also announced that she was actually going to be a member of Bruce Boudreau's coaching staff. So that was going to be, a big deal to get her to be an official coach, and I believe she was going to be on the bench. And then something happened, and she's gone from the organization. Well, Jeff Merrick of Sportsnet's reporting that she has retained a labor lawyer. So certainly, probably fair to say, in her opinion, that there was a wrongful dismissal, or at least that's would make sense of what is being disputed here. There was some speculation that, and this can't be confirmed, of course, and I'm not sure if it ever will be, but there were some who thought that maybe she was accused of leaking information to NHL reporters about some injuries, because there was some talk about some Canuck injuries that they were dealing with, and then there was some conflicting information that was out there, and there were some that wondered if maybe she had talked to one of the reporters and they got the information that way. I don't know if somebody was not happy because of that, and we don't even know that happened. But that's the only thing I've heard in the speculation world that could have happened. We don't really know. We may never know. Certainly everything's been hush and quiet on that front. And like I said, she's retained a labor lawyer, so clearly not an amicable split by any means. Speaking of other things going on around the league, we still don't really know any more about the Ian Cole situation. We know that he was accused of some pretty heinous things on social media through a Twitter post. I know he did have his meeting, which was not a hearing of any sort. They were careful to call it an interview with NHL representatives, NHLPA. He had legal representation. I believe the NHL reps was the security council, was our head security person or something that was representing the league in that meeting. We don't really know what's come from it, though. Ever since that's taken place, it's been a few days now. There's no updates. I know Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick were talking about it on Merrick's radio show, and they really don't know what to make of the situation, because really, as much as everything that was accused sounded terrible, and like I said, if it's true, it's absolutely despicable and disgusting. But at this point, it's only a Twitter post. I don't believe, at least we haven't heard of anything in the news that this person has gone to local authorities, police, or anything like that, filed charges. So at what point, how long can they keep him out of the lineup and keep him suspended if this is all we have? I don't know what if information came from that meeting or whatnot, but I would suspect that sometime soon the NHLPA is going to be pushing for an update and trying to see if they can get him back playing while things are getting sorted out. Like I said, as much as I have absolutely, not going to condone anything. If any of it's true, then it's terrible, and he shouldn't even be playing at all, period. He should be facing, criminal charges if indeed it's true. But if it's just a social media post and that's all there is, it's kind of hard to, to go further with suspensions and whatnot just on that. So we'll see, but no updates anymore than that right now. The Montreal Canadiens also signed a prospect today, young defenseman William Trudeau, who has signed his ELC. Trudeau was drafted in 2021, 113th overall. He's 20 years old, played the last 3 years of junior hockey with the Charlottetown Islanders. Pretty decent defenseman. I've seen him play in person a few times for Charlottetown, and thought he looked pretty good. I thought he had a decent training camp, appeared in some preseason action. So I think they have themselves another decent defensive prospect there. So he's set right now to play for the American Hockey League for Laval. So obviously Trudeau gets his entry-level contract. It is possible, I believe, that he could still go back to junior and play an overage season. That's still a possibility. So I think they're trying to sort out where he's going to be, but I believe it's looking like he's going to stay with Laval for right now. Now, as I mentioned, some trade chatter from around the league. Elliot Friedman on one of his latest podcasts talking about John Klingberg, and he mentioned going through all the NHL teams, looking at a preview for the season, kind of talking about what he expects from each team, things he might see happening. And he sees John Klingberg in Edmonton. I know there's a lot of people talking about Jacob Chikrin maybe being of interest to the Oilers too, but think about the teams that have also been linked to Chychrun, like Ottawa, for example, or St. Louis, and Ottawa has way more assets that they'd be willing when it comes to draft picks, prospects, etc., that they'd probably be willing to part with than Edmonton would. And if they find the price way too high and never completed the deal, I can just imagine what the Oilers will be looking at. So a guy like Klingberg, who signed a one-year deal with the Ducks, would be a more potential solution for this year. We expect Edmonton to have a good season. Edmonton's expected to be one of the teams that'll be, one of the top teams in the West, making a run for potential, Stanley Cup possibilities is what they hope for this year. So we'll have to see, obviously, how they proceed with that. But obviously, Friedman thinks it's a real good chance that Klingberg will be a player on their radar and sees them fitting in well. Of course, we don't know what the Anaheim Ducks would want in return at this point, but considering that the Ducks are very much likely a team that is not expected to compete for playoffs, it makes sense that John Klingberg very well could become one of the bigger names available at the deadline. Now, of course, we could also get a swerve here, and maybe the Ducks will decide that they want to keep him and offer him a longer-term extension. But considering how free agency went for Klingberg last year, I don't know if he wants to tempt his fate here again. Fair to say, I think that if he does make it there next offseason, it'll be going in with a different approach. I believe he changed agents partway through last offseason, so I would suspect that they're going to want to maybe go about this a little bit differently and make sure he can secure himself a longer-term contract and kind of, prepare himself for the next big stretch of his career, possibly even near the end of his career if he gets a longer-term, 6, 7, 8-year deal. So we'll have to see what happens, but Friedman thinks that Klingberg and the Oilers could be a great match and something to watch for later in the year. And then, of course, Luke Fox of Sportsnet is writing that there apparently is some interest in the Leaf winger Wayne Simmonds. Of course, we know he was put through waivers. He has not reported to the minors. They have not made him go down to the Toronto Marlies out of respect because of the long-standing veteran and what he's accomplished in his career, trying to do right by him and find him another NHL opportunity to be able to continue playing at the highest level. Now, I've seen various reports here, but I know Luke Fox is saying that the Flyers may be interested. Of course, he played in Philly a long time, and I can understand with John Tortorella being there that a good pro who plays hard and physical like Simmonds, that Tortorella might have interest there. So I could understand there maybe being a connection there for a potential reunion. Obviously, Simmonds is not going to be a player that costs very much. He's not going to be a player that's signed long-term. So, it might be a good short-term fit. But at the same time, we've also heard Nick Kiprio say, who also works for Sportsnet, he indicated that Ottawa should likely have interest here. Now, we already know that the Senators have a pretty good fourth line. Like, at least they're one that they're happy with so far. It's only been one game to the season, but with Austin Watson already there, Mark Kostelik, they have Scott Sabourin in the minors if they want to bring up more of a physical player who can drop the gloves. I don't really see the fit in Ottawa myself. I understand that Ottawa would be a team that's expected to compete for playoffs this year and expected to do some big steps forward and wouldn't be all that far for him from Toronto. But at the same time, I just don't know that it really entirely makes sense from a Sens perspective. But I don't know. I mean, Philadelphia maybe. But I'd also heard Darren Dreger on the latest edition of TSN Insider Trading saying that as far as what he knew is that Wayne Simmonds wanted to be able to go to another contending team and have a chance to get on a team that's expected to go for playoffs and maybe get Stanley Cup. Like, the guy has not hit a Stanley Cup yet in his career. So as much as, as far as what he has left to accomplish, that would be, the top of his list like it would be for most NHL players. But at the same time, I don't know that there's a lot of contenders that are going to have interest here. So if he really wants to be able to continue playing for right now, considering the season just started, it might be a case where he has to go to another team first, have a chance to play, show that he can still contribute, and then maybe get moved again at the deadline to a contending team. That might be the way he has to go about things. But like I said, according to different Sportsnets personalities and authors here, they're reporting that Philly and Ottawa might be teams that show interest. I'm not entirely convinced that really makes a lot of sense, but Philly maybe, but we'll see. Let me know where you think Wayne Simmonds ends up in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.